She gonna be all right.
She gonna be all right.
I told you they're gonna work with you.
Phyllis. I had a hard time deciding what story to tell. I wanted to be about my family, my own family. My mother and father were very interesting. But I chose my grandmother because I think she had the most influence on all of us. And I made a collage and made her the roots of the family because it was always going to Granny's house or going to 212, which was a large brownstone house on West Canton Street in South End. It was near the corner of Columbus Avenue, and it was one of the few houses on West Canton Street that did not have those awful steps. So I was very relieved about that. But it made it a nice place to sit outside. You could sit out in front of our house, something we like to do in the summertime. It was also an old house, and it always seemed dark because the shade would be on the front of the house, even though it had large windows that you don't even see in houses today. But the back is very stunning. And my grandmother's room was in the back, and that was one of our favorite places for the young kids to go play while the adults were up in the front, talking about the South. My grandparents were from North Carolina. Both of them came from Oxford. They both were born in 1889. I was born in 1946. So I chose the 50s to talk about because that's when I started remembering going to Granny's house. And it was always so much fun because I had two girl cousins, and they both were around my age, and they were always so happy to see me. And it really made me feel good to go over there. That's where I learned a lot of games from them, to pick up sticks, which you had to pick up, drop the sticks and be able to pick them up without making anybody move. Yeah. Or the jacks. Yeah. You scooped up the jacks, and each time you had to scoop up a couple of more than the first time. So that was fun to do. Plus, we just try to entertain each other. And it was something that my family did every Sunday after church. We knew you were going to church on Sunday. My father was a minister. And we lived in Cambridge, a quiet neighborhood, a residential neighborhood. 212 was full of action. They always had lots of people, lots of relatives. My grandfather had 18 brothers and sisters, and at least 5 of them were up in Boston, and they all had children. Matter of fact, next door to 212 was 210, and that had Daniels in it as well. And my cousin Jeanette, she was from that side of the family. Well, anyways, I liked remembering all the things that would go on at 212 on that street. There'd be the Iceman that would come in the summertime and you'd get chips of ice from him. Or the vegetable man that would come, and everybody would come out and get their collard greens or cabbage, whatever he was selling that day. And there was all the stores in the neighborhood. We started at the corner store, which one time was a storefront church. My grandmother was Pentecostal, so she would go there and take us, and there'd be Sister and Brother Butler. You knew these people as the saints. And there'd be a church, the church experience would be live music where you have musicians. We never had it at my church in Cambridge where Father pastored. So it was very exciting. People would jump up out of their seats and start shouting and going into convulsions, and some would fall and be caught by other people. So I know, or even go into tongues, speak in tongues where they were talking, which would sound like gibberish, but they had the spirit. And the music was very lively, so I really enjoyed the service. And plus, there was only a few people there, and it was, I don't remember what they ever talked about, but it was still a place so different from my church. I really liked going. And it never stayed long in one place. It would move around to other storefronts in the neighborhood, but it'd be a place to go. My grandmother always had people coming by to see her from churches, and the house also had roomers in it. And being 4 stories, had a lot of rooms. The rooms were all large, beautiful, marble mantelpieces. And so that was something, you know, to be proud of. But it was really the street that was so memorable. In the summertime, if you were lucky enough to spend the weekend over at Granny's house, or even weeks at Granny's house, the street would fill with children as soon as it started to get dark, and all kinds of games would be played. We played hide and seek, where someone counts out, and the rest of us would hide and to get back to the base before they caught you. You know, you were safe, or you become the person that had to call out and look for people. And there was Red Rover. Red Rover, we held hands and made a chain, and the other team would have the same thing happening, and you'd call for someone to come over and break through the chain. If they couldn't, they had to join your side. Or 1, 2, 3, red light. That was always fun. So, I don't know where all the kids would come from, but the street would just fill up, and since there was hardly any cars at that time, back in the 50s, it was a wonderful street to be able to play on. Or you could go to the park. There was a park down at the corner of West Canton. I can't think of that street that runs by, but there was a train track, and the trains that went by, if anybody knows the South End, I think it's the West Corridor now. But that was something to look forward to. But going to Granny's house was a treat. She was a treat. She was full of wisdom, and my grandfather was very good at fixing things with his hands. He was a carpenter, or jack of all trades, I imagine. They were hardworking people, and they raised their kids. It was a place to go to. Thank you.
Thank you.